Environmental, social, and governance (ESG) investment strategies are essential for businesses today. Now, the next panel discussion you are gonna witness will mainly be focusing on the E, that is environment. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome the next panel discussion under the topic, the new imperative for meaningful business, with the moderator, Mr. Anuj Duggal, the head of sustainability and ESG NASSCOM. With the panelists, I would like to first welcome Mr. Sriram Subramanya, NASSCOM Executive Council member and co-chairman of SME Council and MD and CEO of Integra Software Services Private Limited. Next, I would like to call upon Mr. Dipankar Ghosh, the CTO of ESG Disclose. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Oliver Sam, the Vice President, People Strategy and Transformation and Project Head, ESG, VDAR Technologies Private Limited. Over to the panelist and the moderator.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. We'll jump into the topic, and we are the session between you and lunch. So we can make it long, we can make it short, we can make it interesting, but we'll make it very interactive. ESG, a new imperative for meaningful business. I think everyone has heard ESG in some form or the other, either in their corporate lives or from their clients, or if you are running a company, from your employees, or also from increasingly your other stakeholders, which could be your local communities, sometimes even your children talk about it from their schools. So let me just put this basic question to the panel. How do you think the business environment is changing? Because we know traditionally most businesses always focus on top line, bottom line, ensuring that the numbers keep meeting either the internal expectations if they are a small company, or if they are a very external market facing, reporting numbers to the market, then every quarter they beat the street. So do you think that there's an evolution or change in that expectation? And if yes, what is it? Maybe Oliver, you would like to take the lead there? Just make sure it's...
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you. First of all, I think a quick shout out to the entire team which organized the program. You could see a lot of snippets on ESG being eco-friendly across the board, so happy to see that. Thank you, Srikanth and team. So, Anuj, I think the topic itself talks about building a meaningful business. I think that's where we play a very important role. The way we define the success metric of a company is traditionally been, as you mentioned, top line and bottom line. But over a period of time, in 2020, we redefined how success should look like for a company. We incorporated top line, bottom line, ESAT, customer satisfaction, ESG, and digital adoption score. So as a company, when we look at the overall growth of the company and how we look at success, I would have grown probably great in terms of top line, healthy bottom line overall. But if our employee satisfaction score is not up to the mark, we shouldn't really consider us as successful, right? So the nature of business is really changing and emerging because we are looking at every stakeholder. And specifically the ESG part is considering planet as a stakeholder. Maybe a couple of decades before, this conversation can be lighter, but at this point of time, this is a very serious discussion to have. So I think that's where predominantly it's emerging.
Anything you want to add, Sriram?
In addition to whatever he has shared, if you look at, so it's evolving. So more and more, all the stakeholders are started asking. So earlier, Oliver touched upon, it's a shareholders too, it is moving to stakeholders. That means the entire ecosystem. I just want to give you a few examples. If you look at customers, they have started asking. 2 years back, no one has asked what exactly we are doing in ESG or sustainability. If you look at 1 year back, so they started asking information, what exactly you are doing. And 6 months back, if you look at, so they have started asking in RFI, RFP, more documents, so what exactly we are doing. if you look at recently, so one of our foreign clients, they've audited as well what exactly we are doing in sustainability, what exactly we are doing in ESG. So it is evolving. So you all should be aware of more and more. So they are integrating part of evaluation process, ESG part of RFP. So in case you are not doing, so your score will come down. Sometimes they will share, sometimes they will not share. So it is important. So we have to embrace so ESG and sustainability part of our day-to-day operations. Maybe we should include, like he has mentioned, part of our strategy, part of our goals, part of each functions also we should start implementing and looking at. And not only that, one is I have given an example of customer. If you look at investors, so they are also started looking at whether it's a PE, private equity, or venture VC funding. They all started asking, so before investing, what exactly you are doing. And part of their due diligence process, they've also integrated this. Third one, if you look at even employees also started asking what exactly they want to do volunteering. So they are interested. They are asking, are you doing? When we are doing a senior level interview, so when you are talking about this is what we are doing, they are very impressed. So they want to associate more and more. So that is what it is happening. And if you look at government, so though government has not imposed any law, it is our responsibility. So we should take accountability and start implementing this proactively and before they are regulating. So, and if you look at community also, so I'm talking about entire stakeholders, so they are also watching what exactly, if it is a consumer products, more and more they are looking at, so what exactly they are doing for the sustainability area. So it is very, very important. So it's again, not only as individually we are responsible, it's a business driven also. Customers are also start asking, entire stakeholders are asking, entire ecosystem they are asking.
Sure, thanks Anuj. Thanks to my colleagues. Just to add to that, ESG, a new way of doing business. For me, ESG basically is about sustainability. You know, when we talk about sustainability, it's not only environment, whether we can sustain as a human race, as an example, right? And that's where from we drive from. So businesses have always operated from, from a position of constraints. There will be always constraints. Now, in this case, there are two important constraints that, in my view, are important, which is basically the planet and the people. Profit comes later. So how to make profit when you put these two constraints? Sometimes I feel that ESG, people think about environment first, but perhaps it should have been the other way around. It should have been GSE. To give two examples, one is recently the American authorities have stopped recognizing the nodal agency in India which certifies organic cotton. The reason being that this has been found to be people have producing fake certificates and they are not really organic, and this has become a reputational issue impacting the industry and the people who work in the industry. So many workers are there. And it's also a reputational issue as far as the Indian government is, India is concerned. Similarly, if you have heard of the situation where there is a company producing cough syrup who had ethylene glycol in the cough syrup, which has perhaps resulted in deaths in West Africa. That also has become a serious issue in terms of reputation. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about basically governance issues. So governance comes first, and automatically what happens is that, and governance is, is top-driven, while we need bottom-driven activities as well, but firstly it has to be governance. So that's in my way, thinking, in my view, is the perspective that I want to bring in terms of how ESG will lead or should lead in doing a new way to business.
That's very interesting insight. I think I'll just logically ask an adjacent question, I would say, or adjacent observation I have, that supposing I'm a company, I'm 300, 400 crores, I could be more in the SME segment. I am privately held. I have been doing good CSR, and if I'm operating in India, as per 2% of my profits have to be invested, so I do that as a good citizen. I suddenly start getting from my customers and from my employees something about this ESG. Is it a buzzword? Is it something which is just, this Western media always, they take something, or the management gurus, they repackage something, So is it real? If it is real, what do you think I should do? How do I start this ESG? Is it difficult for me? Because I have a GRI, I have an SASB, TCFD, I have framework, standards. Like you said, you have a third party who's even going to, on behalf of your client, will come and even audit you, and at your own expense actually. So what is the reality here really in terms of if you're not a big player, if you're not a global player yet, but you have aspirations? And as you said very clearly, Dipankar, it's a governance also. Right? People want to be seen as the right business partner for a lot of the countries who are globally they're doing business with. So if I'm such a company, what should I do first? What should I not do first? If you could enlighten the audience, I think that would be really a big task.
A great question. Most of the time, CSR and ESG has been like synonymous across the board. I think CSR is social impact is a very small component of overall ESG. I'll share what is our journey with respect to VDOT. In 2019, we got mentored by Accenture to actually create a 5-year roadmap for ESG. Till then, we believed that CSR is the only way to actually reach back and give back to the community. But ESG was part of a function where we could integrate across the board, like right from your procurement, your admin, your HR, across all the functions we were able to look through ESG as a function. More importantly, I think we need to first believe there is an extraordinary benefit and value out of ESG in creating a meaningful business. And I think I'll go back to my point in terms of how you measure your success is very, very important. In our case, Accenture was pivotal in terms of that mentoring. So we got mentored by Accenture for a year, making sure that how do you create your baby steps, how do you request buy-in within your...
So what was the first step to do?
The first step is...
Did you change your structure? Did you change some governance?
So I think the first thing was about buy-in, about leadership buy-in.
Okay.
So I was part of the mentoring program. So I'm a believer of offline conversations first. So I took it to my board, I took it to my CEO, and I said, hey, we see a tremendous amount of value in terms of ESG. And every time I talk to my business leaders, right, all of them come back to the same point. My customer is asking for ESG. But honestly, I think that's the right thing to do. Yes, my customers are asking. It's going to be a reputational risk for me if I don't invest in ESG. But it is the right thing to do at this point of time. So we started out with the board engagement. We started out with the CEO buy-in. And I always go back to your point to make the CFO your best friend in the ESG journey. Because it looks like as if it is very capital intensive, but you should look at, in the technology world, it's like moving to cloud, right? The economics of the cloud will eventually pay off. So that's how we should look at ESG as well. So we looked at buy-in first. We looked at investing in a separate role to lead ESG globally. I was lucky enough that my lead, she earlier worked for UN. She had a vision for creating ESG function itself. So I think that's where we started off. And eventually we're integrating across all the functions.
I will just quickly jump to a topic and I'll give the other panel members the opportunity there. What about focus in terms of doing, Sriram? Can I just pick up everything in carbon footprint, waste, water in the E part? In the S part, DEI, going to employee health and well-being, which is a given now, is that if you have to compete for talent, going to a supply network also to educate them in the communities, going to a governance. So there's so many things I want to do, but let's take the E part. Within E, and specifically what you and Integra have done, did you start with the focus, or did you just spray the gun and say, okay, let's catch this? So just what were the do's and don'ts as per your journey?
So if you look at, so there are two models. One is like Oliver talked about. So if you are a professional, you have to influence the board, you have to influence the CFO, you have to influence the CEO. That is a one model. So that is also, it depends upon the individual companies. In my company, so I'm the owner, I'm a CEO. I am driving because I am passionate. So I am very much interested. I'm concerned about the environment. So whatever the governance, social, all that. So I am driving, it's a top down. Of course, we have to involve, we have to sensitize, you have to create awareness among employees, and you have to involve them in that process. So there are two models. Whatever is right for you, you have to look at, and then you can adapt.
And how do you engage your employees? I think that
Yeah. So if you, I'll come to that. So if you look at, so very, very important. So one is top management commitment. So once that is there, so you should have a vision and pledge. So in our company, so we have taken, so by 2030, we want to be a carbon neutral company. It is not only telling within the company, not only telling in the conference, we want to be public. So we have put it in our website, we have put it in our LinkedIn, so that we have announced to the world that we are working hard, so we'll be aggressively working towards that 2030 carbon neutral company. Then if you look at, so there are various things you have to do, and you have to be, whatever you have taken the pledge, you have to deploy. So it should be part of your strategy, it should be part of your goals, and it should be deployed business function wise. So for example, it is in procurement. So we have already deployed in procurement, 50% whatever we are procuring right now, gradually will be increasing. So it's all sustainable. So already either they have done a sustainability initiatives or they have got a certificate. So we are procuring, gradually are increasing. So and you have to, next one is you have to create a cross-functional team. So from legal, from HR, from procurement, from admin. So you have to create a cross-functional team. After that, you have to look at one person should be responsible. Either existing person play a dual role and then you can give, or if you are confident, you can invest further. So you can create a dedicated person also. That person is accountable for all the ESG initiatives. So like that, and plus subsequently, we have done an awareness program. So we have continuously, we are doing, educating our team. So various training program we are providing. And based on that, so a lot of employees are interested how they can also contribute part of this initiative. So we are involving them in that process. So and various initiatives we are doing, we are taking a lot of input and we are doing. So this is on the overall structure I'm talking about. What exactly we have done? For example, 2006, our own office we have set up. So in Pondicherry, so it's right now 2,300 people are there. And at that time, there is no need for, there is no law for whatever waste, toilet waste and other things. We can let out whatever as a government norm. But we are conscious, we have set up that time itself sewage treatment plant. So close to 10 million liters every year. So we are saving. So we are not pumping from the earth. So we are recycling. This is simple low-hanging fruits I am talking about. Second one we have done is solar plant. So in our rooftop we have done. So 10% of our energy, renewable energy is coming from that. And we are looking at next 3 to 4 years, we are looking at an area and then we want to buy a land and then looking at 100% we want to be renewable energy. Third one, if you look at, so lighting system. So CFL to, so LED lighting, so we have shifted completely. So like that, there are various things we can do. It is not a, it's a energy conservation related area or water conservation related area or waste management area. For example, e-waste also we have done. So not only we are collecting e-waste and we are handing over to the third party agency. So we are asking employees in case your e-waste in your home also, you can come back and then deposit. So we will dispose in a proper manner. So like that we can do. So this is what we are doing, continuously we are doing. In addition to that, if you look at 10 years back, we have started doing planting in our neighborhood. So in our house area as well as in office area, that entire ECR stretch in Pondicherry for 1 kilometer, we have planted trees. And we have nurtured, it's not a one-time planting, we have to put a steel guard and other things we have to do. And rebuilding exercise due to cyclone. So we have worked with Dr. Abdul Kalam initiatives in Kadalur area, close to 20,000 trees we have planted. And later, based on this, we have created our own private forest. So close to 10,000 trees are there. So if you look at next 10 years, so we want to achieve 200,000 trees we are planning to plant. So and create a private, at any point of time, we will not cut, so whatever we are planting. So one step further we have done. So now, earlier we used to send, because ours is 100% exports, we used to send a gift, unique gift every year we will select and then send it to our key clients. So 6 years back we have stopped and then we have started planting tree in our forest and we are taking a picture and we have created a certificate and then we are sending to customers. That is the first step we have done. 2 years back we have done a QR coding also we have done. So and they can look at our exact location and where exactly the tree is. Now so in this year, so we are going to do geotagging. So like that, we are evolving. So when I'm meeting my customers, he will not even ask, so how are you? First question he will ask is, how's my tree is doing? So that is a conversation. Their emotional connect is also there. So these are all the various initiatives we are doing in our company.
Thank you, Sriram.
Thank you.
Dipankar, I would shift the conversation more on the measurement and data, because ESG is not just a commentary. Of course, very good example, I think, Sriram and Oliver. And I know there's a lot of hard work to first get to the point where you are measuring your carbon footprint. So some insights there may be, how difficult is the data challenge? Is it easy, is it difficult, or is it a must-have?
Thanks, Anuj. That's a very key question to ask with regard to this. What gets measured gets managed and controlled. We know that. Now, how do we do it? First of all, what do we measure? So that's where we should actually start. As they say that you need to set your goals first before you start making a roadmap. So where you are going, and in measurements also there are things like, I'm sorry, lead indicators and lag indicators. So if you say that, and if you use any kind of these frameworks that Anuj was talking about, like the GRI or the TCFD or India's own BRSR, they're talking about, measuring, what is the waste, or what is the amount of energy you're using, and things like that. They are all, lag indicators. You find them, and put it into a report at the end of the quarter and the end of the year. But there are other measures that need to be done, which are, how do we reduce? What are you doing in order to make those numbers good? So there are certain action points, and they also need to be measured. For instance, how you're going to, how many times are you going to review those measures, so that you are always, if not a real time, but you are always, on your foot, in order to take the, the action, so that your, the lag indicator comes out very well. So now the question whether they're difficult to measure, yes, some of these are, but if you go through the, I would rather suggest that I'm talking from the small business perspective. I'm not, I've read ESR reports and the annual reports of large companies, and we understand that they know all of this very well, and they have the big fours to help them. Now we need some medium fours or small fours to help the small people as well, small companies as well. So now, from the small company perspective, I would suggest that although it is not a mandatory thing to look at the BRSR as a template, but it is a good place to start with. You asked a question, Anuj, sometimes back, whether and how to start, where to start. That's a question that we have. That's a very good place to start, where we understand what is being asked for. And then, there are essential indicators, and then there are leadership indicators. The leadership indicators are not mandatory, but it is good to go beyond even the leadership indicators. So as you look at those measures, you will see that there are ways to look beyond. For instance, if you are looking at your energy consumption, and whether it is a direct energy consumption regarding scope 1, or indirect, which you are buying, which is scope 2, or which is in your value chain, which is scope 3, which is very difficult, and that's where the difficulty also comes, as far as scope 3 is concerned. But at least start with the low-hanging fruit, which is scope 1 and scope 2, and see where you can. And there are means, there are technologies, innovations are coming, and that's where we are looking at clean tech to come up with, industry to come up with innovations in order to make this very democratic in terms of measuring things very well and very easily. There are energy meters, smart meters, and things like that. So that's how I think the measurement thing has to be taken. And without measurement, if you start a program, it's not going to work. So measurement is the first thing that you should look at.
Thank you. Yeah, because I want to close and then have questions.
No, just one quick point. The reason why we should measure the impact is for two important reasons, beyond the technical reasons, right? One, I think when we continuously measure the impact, I think it's a fuel for us to do more.
Absolutely.
Number two, I think there are several small business will get inspired by seeing our impact, what we have created. I think that's the most important, ultimate impact of why we should drive ESG journey, and why we should not only measure and also communicate the impact to the larger audience.
Very good point. So I'll try to close so that we can have some questions also in the audience. I would just sum up. I would say that, I'm driving the ESG program charter for NASSCOM, for the member companies. We have a pathway, and if some of you would be interested, I could walk you through either during lunch or during the speaker's lounge. We have time. The key is what we have seen, and what this panel also has said is ESG is there to stay. It's a new imperative, but it's an imperative which other companies have been working at 10 years, 12 years at least before. So if we are still thinking about it only, I think we are doing a big disservice to everyone. We should actually start doing it. How we do it, the mechanics, etc. There are many associations, like you said wonderfully. Accenture was your business partner, and they guided you, they mentored you. I think the NASSCOM is willing as a trade body to also guide. We have an ecosystem of so many companies who are at the top, the big ones, who are really world-class, and they're ready to help also in the mentoring. We have third parties, we have startups I'm talking to. So I'm trying to build an ecosystem where we have enough collaterals, whether through experience sharing, through actual checklists, through actual tangible things which you can use, either free or at a very nominal charge, depending on how we do it. To really start the journey, and if you're doing the journey, to really reinforce that you're focused on the right thing. Because I think that's what we have realized with all our member companies. I talked about 40, 45 member companies. And all of them said, focus, focus, focus. Start small, bite as much as you can chew, because ESG is very expensive. It will, and it's a big ocean. So you have to be very mindful there. I will quickly close now, and I will put the panel open for questions and answers. Maybe 3-4 questions we can take. So anyone who wants to raise their hand, ask a question, either to one of the panelists or to me, feel free. Can we give a mic to the audience?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. My name is Sunil David. I'm an independent digital technology consultant. The question could be to any of the panelists.
Sure.
The question is about energy optimization. So you all talked about measurement of energy, but the more important dimension being how do you optimize energy, and that's where technology will play a big part. And you mentioned ESG is expensive. So what is the propensity for organizations to invest in technology? Because obviously we would want a payback. So are you all willing to invest in the technology, and how expensive is it? Can anyone take that question?
It is the classic dilemma. We totally agree, and I think many people here would like to answer. Yes, please go ahead.
Well, very important question. Technology is a very integral part of making things happen in, optimizing energy, optimizing water consumption, reducing your waste, recycling, reducing, reclaiming. So yes, there is a significant amount of investment that need to be done, but we need not do everything at one time, right? So we have to just begin. We have to start. And there are enough technologies right now in order to help you. You talked about measuring your energy consumption, but how to optimize. There are ways to optimize based on data. The data that you collect from whatever operations you're doing. And using the technologies such as artificial intelligence in order to help you to find out where and how you can optimize. And these are the investments that need to be done, and they can be done, and the cost of these technologies are also coming down, thankfully. And you will see in the next 5 to 10 years they have come down significantly, and I use the word democratic, that's why previously as well, that these have to be democratized. And that's where technology and innovation should, using the opportunities that we have today in order to get together to do, and as Anuj was saying, there are, NASSCOM would like to, help educate people and how to do it. In these kind of collaborations, we can do it all together.
I'll just answer in two quick sentences. One is, you don't have to go to technology. You have to go with common sense. So you have to create awareness. And sometimes you ask your employees, what can we do? Some personal steps they can take, and some as an organization you can take. So we at NASSCOM are now looking at, we already have LEDs in all our facilities, in all our either campuses, offices. What are the next steps we can do? Can we create awareness? A lot of cases we think everything is smart. So I leave a room, I think, automatically the lights will switch off, the air conditioning will also switch, the projector will automatically after 10 minutes, go to sleep mode. It doesn't happen sometimes. Sometimes you just need to put a poster saying, have you switched off the OTP? Have you switched off this? Or this is a manual override button, please switch this. Please press this button before exiting the room. So it's a mix of common sense technology. You have to see the levers. Sometimes you have campuses which you can control. Sometimes you don't have campuses. Then you have to push your partner, whether it's a Colliers or a JLL or a DLF, or whoever the equivalent builder or facilities owner to really go for those measures because everything is available. Even bolt-on solutions are available. So you don't have to rebuild a building. You can have bolt-on solutions to just manage energy in a smarter way. Okay, so good, great. Sorry, I had to compress some time. Two more questions. Any other question anyone has?
CSR has been now there for last 10, 15 years. Okay, it's no more
Yes.
a buzzword. It's actually part of us. Do you think it's time we are mature because any OKR it should be measured as you rightly put. So is it time to have it in our objectives? Drill it out to the last individual in the company because united you can achieve more. Do you think it's time we imbibe into our objectives?
I think absolutely. We just started off having that in our leaders' goal sheet. Some of our leaders travel extensively, including me. So we are asking them, how are you going to offset the carbon emissions? We are not at the point where we need to drill it to the last employee of the company, but it's a great idea. I feel personally that if you influence the topmost 50 leaders to make sure they are aligned on ESG, I think everybody else will fall in line eventually. But we can get to the sheet, the goal sheet eventually for all the employees. But start with your first top 50 leaders.
I think we have to walk the talk. I think that's very critical. We've seen in most organizations that the leaders have to walk the talk. They have to show carpooling. They have to forego some of the fancy cars they drive maybe sometimes, or really walk the talk on energy. And then once you walk the talk, I think the employees get it, and they're more than willing to walk the talk. I've seen a lot of my employees who come from Gurgaon to Noida, and they're very committed. No, we'll go through public transport. We don't want to, they have other personal challenges maybe sometimes, but they have a car, they have things, but they don't want to increase the carbon footprint. So I myself feel guilty because I do that commute only once a week, and I try to do a carpool, which sometimes doesn't happen. But some of these are just reasons we give, that, oh, the timing is different, it will not happen. And coming just to energy, I would just like to add, I forgot one point, is green coding. That is, I think, the biggest thing also as an IT community or a tech community. Coding practices where we can sensitize our employees, and they are the best judge then, what could be an energy efficient coding? Because once you put out a code, it gets compiled, it gets used. Whether you use a screen in dark mode or not dark mode, but important things are your customers and the end customers sometimes see the same program being executed and run, and that is a big cascading effect on energy efficiency, which actually is a slow ticking time bomb. Okay, great. Another question, maybe, or time's up. Last question. Bonus, third question we have to give. Lady somewhere is asking a question?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I have one question on ESG. So as an organization, we always feel, as you said, we are only talking about carbon emissions. We are talking about, our responsibility towards social, social part of it and governance and all of that, right? But then when we look at ESG, especially there was an article on HBR recently where, it goes beyond what a typical organization really looks at ESG, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at a carbon credit, do you think, or every organization, whether it is a small or a bigger organization, also can help, address some of the things that maybe most of us are not aware. For example, rice cultivation, I heard, emits about 12% of methane into the environment, and that is actually affecting, the climate part of it. So can we build some solutions, to address the whole climate part of the ESG?
Okay, in the interest of time, I'll answer the question. I think your question is multi-layered, and the answer is also complex and multi-layered. There are wonderful books I can refer to also which point out this problem. So this problem of ESG, and if you look at environment, all of them actually interrelated because one relates to the other. You have to do things at a collective level. You have to do things at individual level, and then only you move the needle. If you look at where the maximum pain lies, I think the maximum pain lies in industrial output, of course. So the big manufacturing companies which are doing iron, steel, cement, chemicals, I think those are, and oil and gas, of course. Those are the ones which are the first kind of organization people push, or the governments push. But if you see, there's also, like in our industry, which is a slow ticking bomb. So data service. Now, digital is just exploding. Everyone is just moving from paper to digital. But digital comes at a price. Data centers come at a price. We can outsource it to the big three, which is Google, Microsoft, AWS, and one more. And most companies do that. But you don't just outsource the problem. So you have to then have a very good conversation with those big three, and they're doing that already. That are you really using renewable energy? Can you use renewable energy? What part of your energy is really clean when you're hosting these data centers? Similarly, the coding practices. Similarly, there are many other levers. See, we as a association, we have 3,000 members, and I think IT is unique that we employ the maximum number of people also. Each one of them needs per square foot that much area if you have an office. So we need to look at those levers also increasingly, because we are affecting the climate, water, waste, everything is related in ways which may not be very obvious compared to a big industry or a big company, but they are. So my answer would be that we have to do it at multiple levels. It's very intricate, but the important thing is that there's an ecosystem available, there are companies available, there's literature available. You have to have the intent, and then you have to have the just little bit of a budget to push and take the first step. And then I think the universe will open up. Will it? All right. So thank you very much. I hope we could, sensitize you to this topic and get you going on this journey. I would love to talk to some of you offline. And thank you once again to the panelists for such an engaging discussion. We were a little bit short of time, otherwise I would have taken more questions. My apologies for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.